Shall I look?
Hello, my name is Deb Morgan of Not a Rehearsal, and I'm here today with Karin Weiser, who is an international business coach and writer, to talk to her about her recent article for MO2VATE magazine. Now, MO2VATE magazine is a business magazine, online magazine, which you can access by going to www.mo2vatemagazine.com, and MO2VATE is MO, the number 2, VATE. You will find a wealth of business expertise and experience in amongst the pages of MO2VATE magazine, and I'm delighted to be able to talk to Karin about her article in the December 2020 edition. Karin, thank you so much for joining me. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, Dad. Great to be here.
You're very welcome. Karin, I was really interested in your article and thought, I wish I'd read this before I started out on my journey of self-employment, because you offer an awful lot of expert advice, hints and tips from a very personal perspective of your journey of going from a corporate background into self-employment. Can you share that journey with me a bit, please?
It's been almost 2 years and I can hardly believe it myself. And I'll honestly say, um, I've wanted to work for myself and be a coach years ago when I first discovered coaching skills, the doors of NLP, that's neuro-linguistic
Mm-hmm.
programming, opened for me. But I was so attached to I wouldn't say the job, because I've had many different jobs in those 17, 18 years that I worked for the same pharma company. But I was attached to my identity there and I didn't know quite what I was going to do. I hadn't finished growing and developing and getting all the qualifications I needed. And I can see that that actually happened over the years. And back in 2016, our company faced their first round of redundancies. I managed to survive, but I remember that wake up call of I've been getting up and going to work 5 days a week and spending all my holidays abroad for the last 15, 16 years. What would I do? And I see now that the next 2.5 years brought many changes and prepared me for that exit. Then a new chapter begins, and there's a whole load of other things that start, which is what I've based the article on. But looking back, you connect the dots and you see that so many things are about timing, readiness on many different levels. And one of them was that redundancy round in 2016 kicked me up the butt to go and get my formal ICF coaching qualification. I did. And at the same time, I suffered, I became aware of my hearing deteriorating. I've always lived with hearing loss, but at that time I was struggling with one hearing aid. And I ended up getting caught up in a process lasting over a year to be tested for a cochlear implant. I had the operation and I began a whole new journey of learning to hear again. And then a second round of redundancies happened. I survived them, but my whole team got split and I got moved into a role that wasn't me. 3 months later, I left by mutual agreement with my boss. You know, it's been like sort of forced replantation, and it wasn't me. And I knew in my heart, I've got to do this. I've got to go. I've got to try what I've been dreaming of. And at the same time, knowing that I had finished my journey in that
Mm-hmm.
role, and I'll never say about never going back, because you never know what's going to happen. But maybe I'll go back as a consultant, um, which is also a fantastic opportunity with the skills I have and the know-how. And I jumped in. And when I look back on those almost 2 years, I mean, even within the first week, I remember meeting some new people in a small network that I'd joined and introducing myself and saying, I'm trying to start my own business. And then I sort of coughed a little bit, going, no, hang on a minute, I am starting my own business. I have started my own business. I'm just at the very beginning stages. And you don't realize how many small things you need to do and get into place. And other people who don't know, I mean, a lot of my friends never really ask me about what I'm doing. They don't know what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I spent the morning at the accountant's finishing off the last quarter, getting things sorted so that I can just click send in January, and all my accounts are done for last year, this year still. But there's so many small things, and you have to actually find that accountant, find that relationship that you want to build. Who do you want to work with? And it's not just the accountant, it's the graphic designer, it's the learning from other people. I'll say has been a really big thing for me. People who are further ahead with their company, and sifting through those who might see you as a threat, because I've also encountered that.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing the same, but you're never doing the same, because you are unique in what you offer.
Absolutely.
And when you're a coach, it's a little bit like a doctor or a psychologist. Not one size fits all, and everyone develops their own niche and speciality. That's a journey in itself.
Mm-hmm.
As well as the one thing I'll say I feel really proud of 2 years on, that I've built a brand, and it's taken this long to get there, to say that I feel at peace and comfortable in my brand, and I know who I am. And I'm looking forward to growing even more next year. We won't talk too much about what's happened this year. That's maybe made many people have to, well, we stood still, we pivoted, I hate that word, but having to change a little bit, or just actually carry on even more rock solid with a stubbornness going, I've got to try this, I've got
Mm-hmm.
to keep this. Might have to do a little left here or a little right there, but I'm not going to give it up yet.
Fantastic.
And but yeah.
Karin, I'm intrigued because you've talked about starting your business, your coaching practice, but you got your qualifications quite some time before that. So the dream was always there, wasn't it? What was stopping you from making the jump then?
Fear attached to my salary and lack of complete clarity of what I was going to do. And actually looking back, I mean, back in 2008, when it took me a year to do my NLP master, I did it in Danish. And I also felt that, well, I need to have my qualification in English, which is what I did. I actually went to London and I was trained with barefoot coaching, because I wanted to work with the international world here in Denmark. I do and can coach in Danish, but I wanted to branch more out and work globally. And so I knew I wanted my toolkit and the language at the tip of my tongue in my own language. And I'm also a writer, and I see now how what I'm writing is complementing my coaching business and my blog writing. And that has always been, that's what my niche is, my English communication skills, not my Danish. I would say maturity wasn't ready. I worked for a really good company. I had some great opportunities and I haven't finished them. Some things died naturally. It was a pharma company, and things started changing in terms of finances and opportunities, because I was working in training and communications, and that's the first thing that goes when budgets have to be tightened. And I realized I'd done my time. I'm a little bit like my logo with my company is a butterfly, and it is about transformation and growing into it. But I see myself too. I've always been interested since the doors for NLP opened for me. I'm a bit of a personal development junkie, and not that I can't be loyal and stay put, but it's one of those where I'm constantly wanting to improve myself and grow and develop, look for new opportunities to do that. And I can even see that in the 2 years that I've been building my business, how I've grown. And Deb, I hear you also work for yourself, and what we also hear from so many other articles in this current version of MO2VATE about mindset and confidence. And only you can do that. You can get tips from other people. You have to do that work to become that person of who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you've hit on a good point there. I mean, this has been a year like no other, as we know. And there are lots of people who are finding that life isn't normal anymore. Their job perhaps doesn't exist, or they have reduced hours, or there might be other opportunities available to them. And maybe they've always thought, I want to start out on my own, I want to start my own business, but for whatever reason haven't. And you mentioned, that lure of the regular salary very often keeps us stuck in that environment. What advice would you give to somebody who was thinking, I really want to start my own business, but I'm not sure if now is the right time?
Explore. Don't stop exploring what that means for you. For some people, it does mean about having a certain financial buffer. I mean, everybody's different in terms of what their starting point is, and perhaps they have a partner who they can sort of discuss it with, and just know what you need as your sort of financial buffer. But exploring what it is, I mean, I know some people know what they want to do. That's a really, really good start. But some people don't know what they want to do. They're just listening or dragged down by a dissatisfaction inside them. So you need to start exploring what it is that you want to do. Do you want to turn a side gig you already have or a hobby into something that's going to make money? Start that. And as I've made very clear in the sort of opening paragraph of mine, it is about baby steps. And I can see now, looking back, even when I was working, some of the things I was doing, my qualification, I also did a PG Cert at the University of Chester as an add-on to the coaching qualification. That took time, but they were all part of the baby steps and the learning, and every book that I purchased and read, it's part of it. But start that exploration. And don't do it alone. Don't stay in your head. Somebody can go crazy just thinking. Start sharing it with the nearest and dearest, and choose wisely, or move on if you know you're not going to get the support. I'm so lucky that I have a very good friend who I met at university, and she's a massage therapist and had her own business for a few years longer than me, and knows some of the, I'm going to say, the hiccups you can have and the moments of self-doubt and whatever. And so I recruited her as my accountability buddy. And every week I would send her, this is what I've done this week. And these are the highlights, not really what's done because you don't want to do the boring stuff, but the highlights of the week and the things that have happened. And she has been like a mirror back at me to remind me how far I've come and how many seeds I've sown, how many doors I've knocked on, how many bridges I've built, how many partnerships I've formed. And it's really, really important to have those kind of accountability buddies or cheerleaders in your life. And you might have several, and they might give you different things. And you might meet new people on that journey who you'll say, hey, could we share this? I've also done that with a coach who I met via the Danish chapter's networking, ICF networking group. And when lockdown happened, she reached out to different people saying, do you want to meet for a walk? And now I consider her a sparring partner in business. And I've reached out to her when I had some challenges with an agency and an invoice that wasn't going to get paid. What do I do, Tina? I called her. And the advice she gave was that practical advice that myself would probably have given myself if I hadn't been panicking. But it's nice to know when you've moved 2 years on, I've met 2 people I can do that with. If I have a business issue, I could call them and say, how do I navigate this? Because there are still things you don't know, the legal side,
Exactly.
you learn by doing. You can only, that's actually another bit of advice I'm going to say, that one lady on my coaching course was already running her own business, and she was doing the course as a sort of refresher for some of her knowledge, but also to get a little bit more ponderous out there recognition with a qualification. And I remember on one lunch, she said to me, Karin, you only have to be 60% ready. Now, some people might say 50, some people might say 70, but what it is, you do not have to be 100% ready. And I decided, right, that means I have to face that fear and do it, and that's what I mean about the jumping all in. It's like, it was a big thing because I had to create a new identity. And I left a handful of colleagues behind who are watching me and going, telling me sometimes now, when a recent Christmas wish, I couldn't do what you've done.
Mm.
because you are attached to your identity or your history, and you have to create a new one.
Exactly. And it's interesting what you say about being ready, because every so often you'll see a little meme come up on social media where it says, if you're waiting for the perfect time, it's now. Or if you're waiting to be 100% ready, you'll never be ready. And that's so right. You've got to start, haven't you? And you've also touched on something there that you mentioned in your article, and you termed it a radical change. And you said, change who you hang out with. And you've just given us a great example of how you've changed who you hang out with. You've developed those friendships who will guide you, mentor you to a degree, and just generally support you along the path you are taking. But for some people, and that's something else you hear quite often, change the people you hang out with. That can be quite a difficult and daunting step. What advice would you give to people who are thinking, well, I want to do this, but I'm surrounded by people who are telling me I'm crazy, it's never going to work? What advice would you give those people who really have that fire in their belly and want to do this, but are being held back by those around them who actually are doing it from their own place of fear, and who are saying what they believe is the best thing for that person?
So you've really hit the nail on the head there. If you're getting that negative feedback where people are, it's funny, I think the self-doubt that comes to you via other people is perhaps what you're already thinking. And sometimes it is a little bit about, right, well, what do I have to do to deal with that? And, if you're not getting the support from the people immediately, so, the partner, for example, that's going to be really hard because you live with them. But you can choose who you share your dream with. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So choose wisely, or you'll learn who's going to support me in this. Say, hey, this is great. Tell me more, or not. But I have to say, I'm working with somebody. Not all my clients are starting their own business, but I've got one particular lady, and I've watched some of the things she's been going through, and I thought, wow, that was actually what I went through 2 years ago. And one of those fears is, I'll say, when you realize that you're having to vouch for something or explain whether it's, I have got this talent, or look, I've sold one, so that it's happening. If you have to keep doing that,
Mm.
I've realized it's actually an inner fear I still have. It's a reflection back on some thoughts I have. So there's some more work to do on yourself. But saying that, going back, forget just your immediate circle, because friends aren't, they might be your supporters, but you really are going to have to get some professional support. And that might be in the form of a mentor, a coach, business wise. You might have several. I know there are mastermind groups that you can join, and then just other networking groups that are free on social media. Sometimes you pay and you do a course together, and then it stays open and you build some relationships that way. I've done that as well. Just be aware of how time consuming some of it is, and you might be one of those that watches silently from other people before you are the one contributing. But it's okay. Everyone's at different stages. What I mean is, mix your support for both from the people you know and branch out to the professional support, joining those new groups. Social media is great, and it saved so many people in lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
But make that effort to build that network, and don't be afraid to spend some of your money on professional support, to get out of your head, to have somebody say, well, what, hold the mirror up to you and realize, well, that's actually a limiting belief you have, or that's a mindset issue you have, or have you realized who else can help you with that? And before you know it, you might actually be moving past those blocks, but you don't often manage to do it alone.
Karin, thank you so much. That's been really, really interesting and really helpful as well. I'm sure to anybody listening or watching will find that really, really useful. And before we wrap up this interview, I'd like to ask you a question that I'm fascinated by, because you have a very British accent, yet you are living in Denmark. I'd love to know what took you from the UK to Denmark, if you don't mind sharing that journey with me.
Yeah. Actually, it's my Danish roots, but that move, I was following a dream until I'd had as a teenager. I'd spent some time in Denmark on a gap year of 4 months in a, they call it like a high school, but it's not like a high school, you know, everyone's an adult and go to learn different things. And then I started university, and I loved what I'd learned, postcard Danish at that level. I'm not bilingual from birth. I've learned Danish as an adult. And I wanted to go back, so I studied Danish at university. But when I left, having spent also a year in Aarhus, which is the second biggest city in Jutland, I just thought, I don't know if I can live there. I don't know if I could live in a country where I can't speak my own language, and the winter's really cold. So I put it all on hold, and I went traveling and living around the world, and did a stint in London with the rat race. And something happened in our family where we all spread in different directions, and parents retired to the south of France, and sister got married to Australia. And I thought, right, I'm going to move to Copenhagen and go and work there. And you know what? When I look back on that journey, I think, oh, that didn't seem as scary, but when it was. I knew 4 people. I moved here, I got a job via my network, but I knew 4 people, no social media, and I've built a life. So I often look back on that journey and think that is a doddle compared to what I'm going through now. And I have a network. I'm just having to create a new one and then go down different avenues.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the Danish roots that really pulled me, and a love for speaking the language and the culture and the hygge. And I have to say, a lot of my friends from the UK have visited me over the years, and they always go back, oh, I can see why you've moved here. So Copenhagen was, I think it was last year, 2019, one of the recommended cities to visit from Lonely Planet. I know it's been on hold, and everything's sort of low key now in terms of travel. But if you haven't been, I can definitely recommend Copenhagen as a place to visit.
Fantastic. And what a great story. And it really helps me to understand the title of your article in MO2VATE magazine is Ditch the Doubt and Jump All In. You've done that with where you want to live. You've done that with your career and starting a business. Karin, thank you so much for joining me today. And please let our viewers know where they can find out more about you.
My name is my website, karinweiser.com. And please do get in touch if there's anything I can help you with, both as a writer or as a coach. I work with international professionals who are ready to write the next chapter of their career story.
Lovely, thank you. And just for people that don't know about the spelling of your name, it is KarinWeiser.com. Karin, thank you so much for joining me.
The Weiser is just like Budweiser.
Excellent.